Hey y'all, I know this is weird, but trust me, there's absolutely no reason for it either. It was actually an accident, and I just decided to leave it. I don't really have much to say on screen anyway, so we'll just move on to the bulk of this thing. Tell you what, just forget you saw this, okay? Please. So here's the satellite view again of this Dingo Gap area with the purported sand dune. Now these are days 527 through 532 that are in question right now, and we are orienting this map so that we are looking to the west. But the rover is going to be situated on the east side of the dune, and here is the view from that spot. So for now, let's switch back to this virtual viewer that is created from multiple single individual shots, okay? I didn't create this thing. I'll once again have a link to it in the description. Now we're going to look to the left again, back to the south. This is something we looked at in the first video about this. Now please, if you have not viewed that, please go back and view it first. Up in the upper right hand corner, a link to that video should appear. Please watch that first and then come back because there's important stuff there. I don't yet have a good measurement from here to the base of that mountain, which is Mount Sharp. Let's just say it's way over yonder, okay? But folks, that is a huge disgrace to all of us. There is definitely something going on back there, artificial, whether it's current or past. I've looked at countless images of this same area. They're all different. They've obfuscated them differently. It's almost as if they've painted them. And there is a river that flows down there. And here, if we go forward to about day 540, after the rover has gone through the valley below that sand dune, there is the river. This is downstream from where we were just looking. Now, there's also plenty of images upstream. I won't show them to you now. It's kind of boring looking at a little old river, but it's there. They won't admit it, but it's there. The rover has been following this thing for about 20 miles now. Here's another image from, I believe it is Sol 540. It's a few days down the line, of course, but I just wanted to go ahead and show you that it is back there. And look at this. You know, to me, that's mind-blowing. Are you just going to ignore that? Are you really going to ignore that? I don't have a size for you yet. I do not, but we will try to find that. And across this river, notice that. And the reason I bring this up is I absolutely believe that is artificial, and I think quite possibly this river at one time was routed through these. You will see these all along this river. The rover goes right by a bunch of them. In fact, there is another one. Notice the horseshoe shape back there. And the river in the lower section. I believe quite possibly that's what we're dealing with here as well. It doesn't take someone with a master's degree in tomfoolery to realize, you know, something's wrong here. This just doesn't look right. So this mosaic was created from multiple navigational camera images. And once again, it's lower quality in grayscale, but quite often things are left that would have been completely blurred out or obfuscated in the Mastcam images. I remain steadfast in my claim that these aren't rocks. These are all the remains of this civilization. This is debris, and this is evidence. All of it. Everything that you are looking at. I said it, I say it, and it will be continued to be said by me because it's true. And these objects have a lot more of a distinct shape to them in this because they're not the Mastcam images. They don't have to dust them. They don't have the definition. Hey, remember this one, by the way, with the hook or whatever's in it? That is it right there. Now, I think it's time that we discuss the size of this thing. Why? Well, because it matters, okay? The width of this dune is about 10 meters or 33 feet, and the height of it is about 1 meter or 3 feet. It's really true. A lot of people think it's a lot bigger. It's not. Let me show you how I know. The NASA Planetary Data System Geosciences has this website called the MSL Curiosity Analyst's Notebook. And man, this thing is great. And we're able to use it to gauge height and distance due to the left and right navigational and hazard camera data. Now, this is the data that the rover uses to get around. It's your basic XYZ coordinate system. That gives you 3 dimensions. Therefore, you've got to have 2 perspectives. We've got left and we've got right. And they happen to be crossed here, so if you know how to do the cross-eyed, cross-view stereoscopic 3D method, try it. You'll see this in 3D. And if you have the glasses, the mirrored glasses, or some of the others that we've talked about, you'll see this in 3D. How do we do this? Well, we go and we find the source image. And then, if it is a HazCam or NavCam image, it will have a matching stereo pair, and we are able to make measurements. We can gauge the height of areas or objects by this graph that is generated of a profile. It's as if you're looking at that yellow line from the side. You're seeing the terrain, and this is within sight frame. Here are measurements made of this area. Folks, I wish it was bigger, but you can't have everything. It's 3 feet, it's a meter. Here is the graph of the profile, the distance along the profile, and the change in elevation. Also notice the elevation change from the top of the dune to the top of the embankment is about 3.5 feet. That is the distance. Yeah, I said embankment. What about on the south side? Look at this embankment. It is about 5.5 feet or 1.7 meters. That's the elevation change. The elevation rises about 2 feet higher above the dune on the south side than it does the north. Why is that? Think about it. Momentum. Something was coming through here. Was it water? Here's the difference. Left side, right side. There is no change in the 3-foot rise of the dune, but there is in the embankment. So how accurate can these measurements be? Well, let's see. The rover's wheels are supposed to be 20 inches wide. We measured 0.51 meters. That's 51 centimeters. Exactly 20 inches. It's accurate. So there's something in this image that needs to be debunked. But first, here's some measurements that we made here, and they're very useful. And this includes our 10-meter measurement of the dune itself. Remember, that's about 33 feet. And that circular object that a lot of people have talked about, well, the diameter is 61 centimeters. That's right at 2 feet. And on the left, near the number 9 mark, is an object that has been mistakenly thought to be levitating. It is not, and we will show that in the stereoscopic section. So then the rover moves on up to the base of the dune. We are looking west. Then it turns to the right or to the north, does a few donuts, comes back and takes some HazCam images. These are extremely valuable, folks. Don't discount them. Let's look at a few measurements. And the first thing I would like everyone to notice, and all of this is very important, this almost a platform area. It's a lot more detailed in some pictures than it is in others. It's definitely artificial, and the size of this is 13 feet across this visible section. That's about 4 meters, okay? You can see it in the back in yellow. Sorry about that. About 13 feet. Okay. The distance from point 4, this is point 3 to point 4. The distance from point 4 back to the rover is 15 meters or 49 feet. Or around 16 yards if you want to think of it like that. So 49 feet from the rover out to that. It's not that far, and then 13 feet over to here. Now, at the base of this sand dune, as they call it, we're calling this the base. It kind of comes across here. This 4.29 is not the height. The elevation, it's not. The elevation change from point 1 to point 2 is 1.5 meters, or about 5 feet. I am 6'4", so if I were standing here, I could actually easily look over the top of this. It's just not as big as what a lot of people think, and that's just what happens in these two-dimensional images. NASA's telling the truth about this, okay? That's one thing they are being honest about, I do believe. Okay, this 4.29 meters, that is the distance, again, along the profile. I had to take a profile shot of this, and the distance along the profile, one other way to look at that, and I don't mean to insult anyone's intelligence, but if you don't understand that, if you are able to walk into this hill until you got underneath point number 2, the distance from 1 till underneath point 2, you would walk 4.29 meters, okay? But the change in elevation is about 5 feet. Now remember, I mentioned that before the rover settled here, a few feet to the north, it kind of messed around right here. You can see the tracks. What do you say we go back and look at a Mastcam shot from that location? We will have that in full stereoscopic 3D at the end of this video, and you really need to look at it, folks. Now let's go back where we were and look at that same area through the Mastcam, and you're going to notice it's quite a bit different. Not just because there's color, but the perspective is different because the Mastcam sits several feet higher than the Mastcams. As you can see here, the right and left front and rear Mastcams are at the bottom, while the Mastcam is up above the rover. So if you're looking forward to being freaked out by some really bizarre stuff, you're fixing to get it, man. So just hold on. Here's an example of some of the measurements that we've taken of this area, some further measurements. Okay, here we go. Check this out. Now, the measurements we took on this object was on the face of it, and it is only about a foot tall, and they're across the face about 1 foot across. That's it. Now, I'm sure you can already see some of this weirdness. I bet they had a time trying to cover this up. We're going to get to that in a minute. It's been freaking me out, man. There's really some weird stuff here, but come on, look back here. The geometry. Are you really going to piss that off as nothing? Because if you do, you are making a conscious decision to be foolish. Now, back to this thing on Sol 530. It's about 2.5 to 3 feet across. That's all. And here it is again on the right. This is from 527. Here's a comparison of the two images. They look quite a bit different, but this is the same object. And also notice the object behind it. Now, the difference in the two images and how they look may have something to do with the perspective. The camera, the rover and all was positioned quite a bit different between the two. But look at that. What is this, folks? I mean, this is a big deal. That is an artificial object, heavily obfuscated. So is that. But still, again, they're only 2.5 to 3 feet in length. They're not large. Even with all the Photoshop cover-up that's being done with these objects, you can still see it. But the thing about it is, this entire image is heavily obfuscated. When I say 60, 70, 85% or more of images are fake, this is one of those images. All these solid brown spots, the solid gray, this is the art of obfuscation. Follow the arrow. Do you see these squared off sections? That is how they do it. Those are little masks that they put on there to fool even the smartest people. Now, I'm pointing out some areas of interest, but it's everywhere. All those smudges, even on the surface area, they are covering up areas that are constructed of something other than rock. I think that at least
some of my point here is that even though there's a few objects in this image that kind of pop out at you, that shouldn't be the only thing. If this image was not obfuscated, we would see a lot of very obvious evidence. They're fooling you, folks.